All right, let's do it. Woo! So, I met you 2012, the EO space. You probably don't remember. It was a while back. I was about 40 pounds heavier, and I looked like a naked turtle. It was bad. But you inspired me because my mentor originally introduced me to you via YouTube. Said, you gotta listen to this guy by the name of Les Brown. He's an orphan, just like you. He's been able to overcome so many challenges that he's had in his life. And now he's created all this success. He inspires millions around the world. And the question I have, what would you say to an orphan sitting in front of you right now that is lost, who is maybe been abused, maybe been neglected, maybe he's had difficulties in their life that they have no idea how to get over? How would you inspire that person?
Well, first thing I would say that you have something special. You have greatness in you, that you were created on purpose, for a purpose, with a purpose. And we go through a variety of things in life, but ultimately, you have the power in your hands to decide, this is not going to determine who I am. And I'm going to make something of myself in spite of this. You know, we're taught in the book of life, forgetting those things which are behind, reaching forth unto those things which are before, we press toward the mark of the higher calling. But I woke up one night and there was a movie on called Magnolia. I've never seen the whole movie, but there was a line that I heard. It was starring Tom Cruise, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And the line was, we might be through with our past, but our past is not through with us. But there are things that we experience, particularly between age 0 and 7. Jeshua would say, give me a baby and I'll give you a man at 7. But there are things that we experience that help to create and formulate the image that we have of ourselves, and that we have to engage in an ongoing process to discover, who are we really? Who are we? You can't hear me?
Oh, we can hear you, Les.
Oh, you can hear me. Oh, I thought you waved at me saying, indicating that you could not hear me.
Oh, I was just waving because I'm just weird like that.
Yes, yes, you're devilish. Absolutely. But we have to go through a process to discover, who are you really? You know, I'm 74 and I've been reflecting and thinking about my life and constantly asking myself, am I on the path? Am I living out the purpose that I was chosen for? You know, Viktor Frankl said, don't ask what is the meaning of life, but ask what is the meaning of your life. And I believe that I was put here for the purpose of impacting other people's lives. And there are things that I've gone through, there are things that happen to you, and there are things that happen for you, but you ultimately determine what happens in you. And you have the ability to take charge of that. And so I encourage you to, one, spend some time seeking continuously self-development, reading things that can begin to expand your vision of yourself, number one. Two, find someone that can help you. And they might not be in your immediate vicinity, that you have to seek them out. I had to find a man by the name of Mr. Leroy Washington. I was not one of his students. I went in a classroom and I saw how he worked with other students. And I was looking for a friend of mine. And he told me to go before the class.
Sorry.
He told me to go before the class and read a script, and I was petrified. And I said, I can't do that, sir. And he said, why not? I'm not one of your students, sir. He said, do it anyhow. And I said, I can't, sir. And the other students started laughing, saying, he's Leslie, he's DT. Wesley, his twin brother, is smart. He's the dumb twin. And they laughed at me. And so in that moment, this man spoke, and he interrupted the vision and the story that I had of myself. Because being born in an abandoned building on a poor section of Miami, Florida called Liberty City, and becoming a foster child. I was one among 7. I have a twin brother. And then when we were 17, Mama adopted us. And I feel like Abraham Lincoln, who said, all that I am and all that I ever hope to be, I owe to my mother. That God took me out of my biological mother's womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother. And in that moment when he spoke to me, when he said, don't ever say that again. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. How people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves. And so I just want you to affirm, even though you have nothing to prove and nothing to validate what I'm saying, that, and sometimes you have to believe in somebody's belief in you. And I'm saying to you, and I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two, you are a masterpiece because you're a piece of the master. You have something special. You've got greatness in you. And it's very important to find someone to help you to bring that greatness out, because you can't read the label when you're locked in the box. And you need some help on this journey, this process called life. And I got that, and that's why I'm where I am, because somebody like a Manny reached out and saw some potential in me and helped me to begin to believe in myself. And sometimes you have to believe in somebody's belief in you until your belief kicks in. Next question, please.
That was nice. That was nice. Now, Les, you said something that really resonated during that, which was you were taken from your mother's womb and put into your foster parents' life, right? And it's kind of like everything happens for a reason. And that's a lot of what I live by, because I've noticed that every little bad thing that's happened to me down the road has always led to something bigger, something better, and I've been able to learn from it and help more people from it because I've gone through that. How can you talk to somebody in that sense? People that have just keep seeing the wrong things in life, they don't see happiness, they don't see joy, and they're lost. They just keep seeing that everything's happened to them and they just don't see a way out. What would you say to someone like that?
Well, the people that don't see a way out are living out of their history. What's important, even when you're going through stuff, you have to live out of your imagination. I came up in poverty in a drug-infested area where they had the 20th Street gang, the 14th Street gang, but I had a vision of myself. I was shining the shoes of a man by the name of Mr. Sodersky on Miami Beach. My mother worked for wealthy families on Miami Beach. She cooked for them, and we ate the food left over from the families that she cooked for. She kept our children, and we wore the hand-me-down clothes that they gave us at the end of the year. And I was responsible for cleaning his office. And he listened to some reel-to-reel recordings called The Strangest Secret in the World. And one of the things on there, he said that people don't live life as it is, they live life as they are. You don't get in life what you want, you get in life who you are. And what impressed me about this recording that he was listening to, that he said the strangest secret was that we become what we think about. And so I started thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. Number one, I wanted to buy my mother a home, and I wanted to take care of her, and I did. I said, Mama, when I turn 18, you will never work again. Because my mother told us, my twin brother and I, listen, she said, if your wife has a husband and a job too, one of them's gotta go. A woman isn't supposed to pay the bills. And I believe that to this day. And so she said, a man, not a grown boy, but a man takes responsibility. I said, well, when will I be a man, Mama? She said, when you turn 18. And so when I turned 18, I said, okay, I'm 18 now. And so I set Mama down. She never had to pay another bill. I shined shoes. I used to collect aluminum and take it to Pepper's junkyard and sell it. I used to cut grass. I did a variety of things. And so one day when I was shining Mr. Sodersky's shoes, he said something to his son, David, I'll never forget. He got him a boat for his birthday. And he said, David, he said, when I'm gone, he said, I want you to be able to do what I've done plus more. So he gave him the boat, and David and I were very close, and David was very excited. But he also gave him these reel-to-reel motivational messages. And David said, "Thank you, Dad." As soon as his father left, he threw them in the trash can. I said, "David," I said, "what are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to get everything anyhow when the old man goes." So I say, "Can I have them?" He said, "Yes," but I didn't have a recorder. So he said, "Well, when you come to work with your mother, you can come in my room and listen to them." And I did. And what I discovered about that process, that he said to David, he said, "You want to be successful, look at successful people and do what they do. That people form habits, and habits create futures." And so I wanted to become successful, even though I was surrounded with poverty, living in Liberty City and Overtown, and drug infested area, and all types of violence. I was living out of my imagination. And one of the things that Earl Nightingale said, he said, "Get a 3x5 card and write down one major goal that you want to achieve. And then on the flip side of that card, write Matthew 7:7, ask and it shall be given, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be open." And so the major goal that I had at that time was to buy my mother a home. That was my single focus. Now the question became, how are you going to do it? And when I talked with Mr. Washington, this mentor, he became an early mentor, he said, "You want to be successful?" He said, "3 things that's very important." He said, "Number 1, you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are." He said, "I want you to listen to motivational messages on a regular basis." So I listened to Zig Ziglar. You know, if you give enough people what they want, they will give you what you want. Jim Rohn, "When the end comes for you, let it find you conquering a new mountain, not sliding down an old one." Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, you have something special. Don't allow negative thoughts to control your mind. You can't control the thoughts that come in your mind, but you can control the thoughts that you dwell on. Winston Churchill, "The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it, ignorance may deride it, but at the end, there it is." And then the other thing that he said that was very important, he said, "Develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are." And I followed those principles. And the final one he said, and this is what you're doing, Manny, he said, "Give yourself a home court advantage. Practice the principle of OQP, only quality people." See, we earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of our closest friends. And Jim Rohn said something. He said, you have to look at the people in your life and ask the question, what is this relationship doing to me? My son John Leslie said, and I think it's a profound question you have to ask yourself as you look in 2019, ask the question, who should I count on and who should I count out? And Dr. Dennis Kimbrough said that if you're the smartest one in your group, you have to get a new group. You have to upgrade your relationships. And so when you surround yourself with people outside of the people that you now know, and you have to find them if they're not close by. You can walk outside now and find some pigeons, but it's going to take you a minute to find some eagles. Then by changing your relationships, putting yourself in a community of collaborative, achievement-driven, supported relationships. I did not associate with kids that drank, that smoked, that were in gangbanging. I stayed away from them. I didn't criticize them, but there's never been a statue erected to a critic. I was focused, kept my mind focused on having relationships with kids I could learn from. I never forget when I went to the 40th anniversary of my high school, I told several students, I said, thank you so much. Because of you, my neck is longer because I copied off your paper so many times. I was looking over there trying to learn everything I could because they labeled me educable mentally retarded and put me back from the 5th grade to the 4th grade. And I failed again when I was in the 8th grade because it takes me longer to get something than most people. It takes me a very long time. They said I was holding the class back. And so they labeled me educable mentally retarded. And so if you, 1, work on your mind, 2, develop your communication skills, 3, surround yourself with collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships, you increase your chances of having an achievement-driven life. We live in the greatest country in the world. We don't have to get great again. We've always been great. Nobody's ever been in front of us. And it gives us an opportunity to use our talents, our abilities, and our skills to pursue our dreams and to live a life of contribution. And what you're doing, Manny, is very important. Horace Mann said we should be ashamed to die unless we've made some major contribution to humankind. And so as we look at ourselves, look at our goals, we should set personal goals, financial goals, and social contributions. And I want to congratulate the business people that are there, your business partners who are making a difference. You're making an impact, and you have no idea this movement that you're surrounding yourself with, this movement that Manny has ignited. You have no idea the impact of what your contribution and your participation will produce. I mean, there are people who help me. I remember a man named Mr. Ed Graham, and he was a minister. And one Christmas, we had very little because Mama was sick, and he brought a food basket to us in Liberty City. He was, I'll never forget, he's about 6'2", and he said, I understand there's a lady here who has 7 children, and you have no food, and you have no gifts. And he brought us a food basket, and he brought us some toys. Years later, I was in Columbus, Ohio. He came in, and he used to be one of the people who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he came to Columbus, Ohio, and I was the program director and a talk show host of a program that I'd created called Voice of the People. And when I found out he was in town, I invited him to the station, and I said, sir, as I was interviewing him about what he was going to talk about, I said, you don't know me, but I know you. And he said, and he was very articulate, and he had great oratorical skills. What do you mean, young man? I said, I'm from Miami, Florida. Where you from? I said, I've been to your church, and you brought us a basket of food, and I'll never forget that. And I said to my mother, Mama, she said, what is it, Leslie? When I become a man, I want to help people just like Reverend Ed Graham helped us. She said, you can, son, you can. And he and I, we both broke down on the air crying, but he was shocked that I remember that I was 10 years old at the time. So we don't know the impact that we can make and how the work that you're doing, Manny, you have no idea of where it's going to happen. I was in Mumbai, India, and I just laughed. And I heard a scream, Poppy, it's him. And this couple ran across the street in traffic. And the husband, he held me, Mr. Brown, thank you. And he was crying profusely. And his wife, she circled us. She walked around us and she said, Mr. Brown, we drove 8 hours from our village to come here to hear you. Mr. Brown, my husband heard your voice and you said life is God's gift to you and how you live your life is your gift to God. And then she stopped and she reached in her purse, Mr. Brown, and she put a rope across my shoulder and she said, you stopped my husband from hanging himself. Oh my God. I mean, I started crying. I was humbled that I'm thousands of miles away from America. All of us, Manny, have, I believe, an energy signature. That this work that you're doing and the people that have partnered with you, the people that have showed up, you're messengers of hope. And when there's hope in the future, that gives you power in the present. I had no idea. I didn't even know this guy. But he heard my voice. And there are certain people, Manny, that will hear you. There are certain people that will hear my son, John Leslie. There are certain people in that audience there that when they speak, something about them, the frequency in their voice, when they speak, They will distract, dispute, and inspire. I train speakers, and they will distract them from their current story and break down their current belief system and inspire them to become, as Mother Teresa would say, a pencil in the hand of God and start writing a new chapter with their lives.
Wow. Now, I've been waiting to ask this question. One of my biggest sayings that most people know me for is too blessed to be stressed. I say it all the time. I use this other hashtag, real men love Jesus. And how, because you talk about God all the time. You talk about being of faith and how big a role does faith play in business, right? I mean, so many times you hear these entrepreneurs, don't be talking about faith, don't be doing this. And I'm like, I am not going to talk about my secret weapon. I mean, this is what I literally wake up for, being blessed, waking up, being able to do what I'm doing because of a situation. Now, you haven't heard about the story, but 2017, January 27th, I had a conversation with God. My everything was crashing around all around me. I had a fork in the road I had to look at in my business, and it was either start all over or go down the safe road but sacrifice my morals. And I didn't know what to do. I was calling my mentors and my coaches, and what was I going to do? I'm laying down on my bed. I'm looking up at the ceiling. My wife's on the bed with me, and she's not saying nothing to me, and she's really quiet. And yet, later that day, I have this weird experience. About midnight, my dog barks, takes me outside, and it's completely quiet. I start hearing these voices in the back of my head, and I'm like, what is going on? Telling me to put the dog away, keep walking. I do it, I follow it, and then I have this crazy conversation with, I have no idea who it was. It tells me, Manny, help the orphans. You have no fear. I go to sleep that night. I have a crazy dream about having no fear, running up this mountain of fire to help people. I wake up, and immediately all the information floods to me. I know who it was from. I know what my purpose is. I know exactly what I need to do. I wake up my wife, and I shake her, and I go, babe, I just had a conversation with God. Now, here's how I know it was a conversation with God. She started crying. Like, why are you crying? Because when you're laying on that bed yesterday, looking up at the ceiling, I was praying that God would reveal himself to you. He would tell you exactly what you needed to do. And ever since then, I've walked in my purpose. I've been able to share the stage with you, Les Brown. I've been able to become a #1 best-selling author now. I've started a nonprofit. I've started ServeX. I started Network of Influence. I've, been able to collaborate with amazing people. How important is God to you, Les?
Well, one of the things I strongly believe, I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. Religious people are afraid of going to hell. Spiritual people have been there. And the primary difference between what I do and what ministers do, ministers preach the gospel about Jesus. I preach the gospel that Jesus preached. They sell the messenger. I sell this message, and I use it and incorporate it in everything that I say and do. I believe that we were created on purpose, with a purpose, for a purpose. I am because God is. And I believe that as we look at ourselves and look into the future and where we are right now, that greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world. Dr. Howard Thurman, who was a mentor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Albert Schweitzer, Mahatma Gandhi, he said, there's something in each and every one of you that waits and listens to the voice of the genuine in yourself. That's that still small voice of God. That waits and listens to the small voice in yourself. And if you cannot hear it, all of your life, your days will be spent on the ends of strings that somebody else pulls. And I believe that because of the interruptions, the distractions, of all the noise, we have more communication tools than ever before and less communication. That most of us, because we live in a world that's focused on being external rather than internal, that most of us don't take the time to get still to do what you did, to get still, to listen to that small voice within. And it's very important. I'm in this place where Leo Tolstoy, he was a Russian author. I was at the Cancer Centers of America a month ago. I go back tomorrow morning. And I remember when Dr. Taha came in, he said, I don't have patients. I have family members. You're part of my family. He said, did they tell you from the Cleveland Clinic that you have 4th stage cancer? You've had it for a while. I said, no. I said, I knew that cancer had eaten 40% of my T1 vertebrae, 1, 2, and 3. He said, did they tell you that metastasized to 7 areas of your bones? I said, no. He said, that's the pain you've been experiencing. And he said, did they tell you there's a shot? And I said, no. He said, well, you're going to get that today. But when he said to me that cancer metastasized to 7 areas of my bones, I smiled. And I'm sure he's wondering why. Well, because 7 is my lucky number. I'm one of 7 children. I was born February the 17th. Joshua marched around the walls of Jericho 7 times. Naaman dipped himself in the river Jordan 7 times. I'm a 27-year prostate cancer conqueror because of God's grace and mercy. And what I strongly believe, what has kept me here, is that this work that I'm doing now with you, I'm in alignment with what I'm supposed to do. And when you are in alignment, I've been thinking about how do I get, and I want everybody in that room to help me. I want everyone to write, there are 4 videos I want them to just send out to people. Why? Between now and January 1st, because the suicide rate increases dramatically between now and January the 1st. During the Christmas holidays and after Christmas, it spikes. 1, Les Brown speaking in the Georgia Dome. 2, getting unstuck. 3, it's possible. And 4, you deserve. I want them to encourage you and say, hey, I saw this. I wanted to send this to you. I wanted to share this with you. I'm helping out Les Brown spread some positive words out here. I was with one of my students who flew in for me to train her from Australia. And I said, why did you come to me? She said, I've heard you speak and you speak from the heart. And as we were seeing whether or not this is a good fit, I said, let me ask you another question. What is it that you want to accomplish? You said, you want me to help you discover your power of voice. She said, I believe the world is as it is, not because a few people are hateful, violent, and divisive. She said, I believe the world is as it is because too many people are silent. And I don't want to be an onlooker. I want to raise my voice, a voice of love, a voice of hope, a voice of encouragement. I said, you're the kind of person that I want to work with. And I believe that at this time in our history, there's a perpetrator, there's a victim, and there are onlookers. There was a speech given before Dr. Martin Luther King spoke at the Washington Monument and gave that famous speech, I Have a Dream. But there was a Jewish rabbi that spoke, and his speech it gave me goosebumps. He said, we don't want to become a country of onlookers. We're just watching injustice and don't raise our voice, watching things that are taking place and don't try and step up to help. And so I feel so strongly about the work that you're doing. Leo Tolstoy said, as I face inevitable death, what in the meaning and purpose of my life that will not be undone or destroyed when I'm gone. And I say to you, Manny, and the people that's in that audience, that those young people whose lives you're touching now, and the lives that they're going to touch, and the people that they're going to influence, that we're in God's pyramid. And that work will not be undone when we're gone. That work will continue to bring people who are in a dark place out into the light. Since 1999, suicide in America has increased over 30%. And so I believe as we send out messages of hope to interrupt the story that people believe about themselves, that help them to begin to know, no matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. When Dr. Taha said, do you know you have 4-stage cancer? I heard a voice in my head that said, you got this. You got this. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. And so we have to reverse the programming that we are being instilled with and saturating our minds every day, because the need now, the stress, there are people who are feeling helpless and powerless, and it's affecting our kids. My great-granddaughter on my former wife's side went to school. She's 8 years old. And she said, I don't want to be here anymore. And her teacher said, well, where do you want to go? What school you want to go to? She says, no. She said, I don't want to live anymore. 8 years old. They have her now under a suicide watch. She was being molested by her mother's boyfriend. 8 years old. I'm now trying to get legal proceedings to get her out of that environment. The level of abuse of kids today, it's always been, but the internet allows us to expose and bring attention to things that's always been there. A friend of mine wrote a book called Silent Tears. It's just been silent tears, but fortunately we can hear, and we have an opportunity to step up and to get involved. My daughter, Ona, she called me one day. I was at my desk and she said, are you busy? I said, no, I can talk to you. And I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm at a light. She said, there's a police officer in the middle of the street. He's directing traffic. She said, obviously, a funeral procession is coming by. Then all of a sudden she said, whoa, wow. I said, was there an accident? She said, no. She said, a hearse came by and there was only one car behind it. She said, Dad, she said, when I die, I want the contribution of my life to be so strong that there'll be a long procession and traffic will be backed up for hours. I want, because of how I live my life, that people will pack the cemetery to celebrate the fact that I came this way. And I think that we all should have that kind of mindset. You have something special, you have greatness in you. You're a masterpiece. God chose you out of 400 million sperm. There's something I strongly believe that all of us are supposed to do. And we don't always know. We don't always know. My song used to be, my favorite song used to be by Frank Sinatra, and I met Frank Sinatra. I did it my way. Now, as I look back on my life, I wasn't that smart. I did it God's way. He set me up. And I always wanted to make a choice that would not cause my foster mother to cry. I always wanted to make her proud. That's why when I end my speeches, I say, this has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. Because she worked so hard to raise 7 children that she didn't give birth to. And I remember saying to her, one day I'm gonna make you proud of me. And Manny, I used to rub my mother's ankles, and she would tell me stories. My brothers and sisters would be outside playing. And I said, Mama, tell me a story. She said, Leslie, I've told you these stories before. I said, tell me again. And she would tell it the same way with the same excitement. She only had a third grade education. Boy, she can tell a story and had my attention. Had no idea that she was shaping my mind on how to tell a story, how to interrupt a person's story with my story, how to teach somebody how to tell their story and make a difference and build a business. I had no idea. There are things that happen to us. There are things that happen for us. And I believe in that room. There's greatness in that room. I believe in that room, this place where you have assembled those young people, where you've got partners in the community who share your vision for a brighter future for these young people, as Mr. Washington saw for me. He had no idea that one day I'll be speaking to 80,000 people in the Georgia Dome. He had no idea as he talked to me. I remember when I eulogized him, and there I was. It's an interesting thing about this thing called life. I was sitting at an angle from his son, Nicky, and they called me up to speak. They didn't call Nicky up. And Nicky, who I'd known when we were raised together, I would go out to their house, but he'd given himself over to drugs. Here I am. He never knew I was thinking, this man who I was about to eulogize, his father, he never knew him. He had no idea, because if he knew who I was standing up talking about, he'd have never gone down that path. And we don't know what that is. We don't know. And I cannot say enough about what you're doing now, because people wrote me off. And my mother, she never gave up on me.
I'm not sure I understand.
She never gave up on me. She said a hard head makes a soft behind. She said, I told Mama, I beat your behind till it broke like okra. I told Mama, look here, they're okra now. My mother was a trip, man. I never forget, I gotta share this with you. Wesley and I found a cigarette butt. We were 5 years old. Lucky Strike. So here we are trying to smoke, and we got caught. So Mama said, oh, y'all want to smoke? Yeah. Good, Margaret, hey, go to the store. So she sent my sister's store, get 2 packs of Lucky Strikes. They didn't have filters then. So she gave him a pack, gave me a pack. We had to smoke 7 of them, okay? And then we had to chew the others and swallow them. And she gave us a big glass of water. I was choking. Mama, I don't want to smoke. Yes, you do. No, Mama, I don't want to smoke no more. Yes, you do. Yo, listen, I don't smoke. I don't drink. Let me tell you. That was a great program that she had. I'm sure they'd have put her in jail today, but it worked.
Moral of the story, go get your kids a pack of cigarettes.
Have them eat a pack and smoke a pack. Oh boy.
All right, Les, man, you've been definitely dropping some major knowledge. I mean, we see people taking notes like crazy. One of the big reasons I brought you in for this project is from orphan to CEO. You know, you being a former orphan, me being a former orphan, my passion in being able to help these kids understand entrepreneurship and mentorship. Who better than you to be able to bring that knowledge? So I'm going to be bringing this to as many kids in foster care that I can. Aging out foster youth, there's 26,000 every single year in the U.S. alone, and 2 out of 3 of these kids are dead, homeless, or in jail within just 1 year. We are failing them with our system, and my program is going to fix that. In the next 5 years, I don't want to see 2 out of 3 dead, homeless, or in jail. I want to see 2 out of 3 of these kids have a mentor, understand entrepreneurship, and own their own business.
Yeah, you know, yeah. And I think that's very important, and I'd like to partner with you on that. There's something that I've created that can be a great addendum to this, and that is one, I've created a pre-release program that is designed to change the mindset, number one. Number two, teach them how to become effective communicators. Three, teach them how to develop relationships outside of the toxic, negative relationships that will destroy their lives. Four, teach them how to dress like a prospect and not a suspect. And five, how to become global entrepreneurs on the internet. So there's synergy here. 72% of corporations strike strategic partnerships. And I think that as we look for ways to work together to impact this, we can do this in our lifetime. We can make a difference. I strongly believe that. I've created the Les Brown Success Pre-Release Program, a year-long program prior to a person being released from jail to decrease the recidivism rate, and also a program that, like what you have, to decrease the incarceration rate. And we have the ability to do this. There is something that I strongly believe. There's a quote I heard once that said, in life, you will always be faced with a series of God-ordained opportunities, brilliantly disguised as problems and challenges. And this is a God-ordained opportunity that we have, the people in that room, that we have, you and your vision for foster kids and kids that have been adopted and kids that are being liberated, emancipated. We have the ability to impact and make a difference. My favorite book says, the least that you do unto these, my brethren, you do it also unto me. I believe that that's the calling on our lives, and that work will not be destroyed after we're gone. I can't hear you.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So Les, I want to leave it with this. What is one thing or maybe a couple of things that you could leave our audience with, whether they're former foster youth, whether they're young entrepreneurs, seasoned entrepreneurs? Where is business going, right? Where's the future of business? What is it really needing to be about? Because it's not the transaction, right? It's not the sales pitch. It's not the special offers and things like that. What is business really about? You've been able to create massive success. What do you know to be true?
Here's what I know to be true. This is the era, what the late Peter Drucker called the era of the 3 C's: accelerated change, overwhelming complexity, and tremendous competition. I'm finishing up something that I've created, and those of you in the audience that like to have it, you can email me at lesbrown77@gmail.com.
lesbrown77@gmail.com.
And we're going to send it to you, something, a combination of something me and the late Miles Monroe did together.
We're texting the word less.
Yeah. And
I set up a little thing for you so we can get you everybody's contact info. So instead of just their email, we'll be able to get you everybody's info. So we can do that definitely. I'll have everybody shoot you over their email address, but you could just text the LES, less, and that'll get you all set up as well.
Yeah. In order to be successful today in business, you have to make yourself stand out. You have to operate out of thinking of Henry David Thoreau. He said, do not go where the path may lead, go where there's no path and leave a trail. When I became involved in speaking, I realized it was governed by the Dale Carnegie course, which is a good course. They teach, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. My mentor, Mike Williams, and I'm encouraging everybody to get his book, is called The Road to Your Best Stuff. The Road to Your Best Stuff. He said, Brownie, he said, never let what you want to say get in the way of what the audience needs to hear. Conduct communications intelligence. Create an experience. If information could change people, everybody would be skinny, rich, and happy. And so you want to find ways in this customer-driven world to make yourself stand out. You want to create a customer experience so that you will increase your repeat business and referral business. You want to hold yourself to a higher standard on how you approach your customers. They can smell commission breath. And so people don't want to be treated like a transaction. They want relationships. You know, Zig Ziglar said this. He said, if you give enough people what they want, they will give you what you want. Maya Angelou said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so when you focus on what is it, how can I make an impact, the experience that I can create. Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once a man or woman's mind has been expanded with an idea, concept, or experience, it can never be satisfied to going back to where it was. And so what you're doing with those young people there, that's what's taking place now. You're interrupting their story, and you're allowing them to step out of their head and to live out of their imagination. Einstein said the imagination is a preview of what's to come. And the people that are partnering with you now are helping to create a new vision in the future, not just for those young people, but for themselves. You know, Mr. Washington said to me, love, hope, and inspiration are perfumes you can't sprinkle on others without getting a few drops on yourself. And so I strongly believe that when we are willing to give of ourselves, Earl Nightingale said, your success in life will be directly related to the quality and the quantity of the service that you provide. And so as we look at ourselves, and I want to say thank you, those of you that's in the room, for providing a service, a social commitment to those young people. And you're going to impact generations yet unborn. And your reach, there are people who helped me, they had no idea that I would become the person that I am now. They had absolutely no idea. We have no idea when we look at those young people who they're going to become. And this love that you're showing, God is love, and he who dwelleth in love, God dwelleth in them. And I believe as we live from a place of love and give what we can and do all that we can with what we have to make the world a better place, we all benefit in the long run. I want to thank you so much for who you are, young man. And how old are you now, Manny?
31.
Yeah, you still in diapers, man. You still in diapers.
I'm in business diapers. I'm a toddler right now.
That's right. I'm
still getting potty trained.
Yeah, I'm 74. Look here. I used to think people in their 40s were old. Now that I'm 74, I believe I was a waiter at the Lord's Supper. Oh my God. Where did the time go? Betty Davis said, old age is not for wimps. And she was absolutely right. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate in this and allowing me to share some thoughts with you. I appreciate you. I love you and I admire you. And those of you in the audience, I love you and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. I want to leave this with you. I don't know what your goal is. I don't know what your dream is. Here's what I know about you. You have something special. You have greatness in you. Here's what I know about you. You've decided in your heart of hearts that you can make a difference. And my mother used to love this, and she would tell me, Leslie, say that thing for me, boy, that makes me feel good. Mama was a 22-year breast cancer conqueror. She passed at 89. And I dedicate this to you as your dream and your willingness to make a difference in the lives of the young people in that room and those who are not in the room. If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your peace, and your sleep for it, if all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, and if you gladly sweat for it and fret for it and plan for it and lose all your terror of the opposition for it, and if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, and stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famish or gulf, sickness or pain of body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim, you besiege and beset it, for the help of God, you'll get it. This has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's Baby Boy. God bless you. God bless your dream. God bless America. And God bless you.
Thank you, Les. Thank you. Les Brown, everybody. You got a standing ovation, buddy.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
They love you. They really love you.
Thank you.
Take care, buddy. I look forward to talking to you.
Bye, Les. We'll talk soon.
All right.